If you guys don't understand that the more that you increase your consciousness, the more that you'll be ashamed of. It's the first thing you felt, right? It's the biblical story, what happens after we eat of the tree that allows you to understand things, right? You immediately look at yourself and you go, holy shit, I'm naked. You become aware. And what's the first thing that you do? You hide. So we didn't speak about this last time, but this is what I'm going to make very clear here. So this is really about rejection. Anything that you reject about yourself, you end up hiding, then feeling shame for. So where there's rejection, there's shame. Now, your traumas kind of give you a little bit of immaturity because your ego wants to hold on to it for a sense of value and identification, right? Because you don't want to hear that somebody goes, oh, what you experienced technically did fuck you up. No, why do you want to hear that? If you've been raised in our day's generation, in our society, now you're further away from your dreams. So what's your ego going to do? It's going to create a narrative to protect you from an incident. And then once that incident gets triggered, you're going to project it onto others. So what was it? Tuesday was our group. Oh, Wednesday was a fucking time to be alive. And I'll tell you why. It was the day I realized I'm a monster. Now, if you guys feel shame for something, just remember what you are isn't really the problem. It's what you do with who you are. Now, what if you are a monster? How do you feel? Just curious.
Kind of cool.
Kind of cool? Well, for you, Ravi, you've been doing this for too long, so you probably have more positive associations to it. You would think kind of cool. Do you know what it's like? We spoke about Shrek, right? People run from you when you're a monster or an ogre of sorts, right? You sure? People have a lot of things to say about people like you. So you know, although my assessment of the situation with that girl on Tuesday was accurate, I wanted to build on it today so that you guys can really step into freedom. Let me be honest with you. There is nothing more freeing than understanding who you are, what you are. It doesn't mean that you're bad or good, just like emotions. You know, you can't show pain to people. Well, you're missing your ability to express yourself as a human. So technically you have less freedom than other people. That's something your subconscious lives with. And by the way, you're almost attracting hard surfaces to break you down. You ever feel that way? You're like, oh, I'm looking for something to break me down. Well, that means that your subconscious is looking to set itself free, right? What's the one thing that's kept you in captivity, Kevin? Well, your ego. So, and by the way, Taha, if you ever wanted to interrupt and share anything at any point, you can. So, for sure. I spoke about this to a few of you guys. If you truly want to be a kind man, you need to accept that you're a monster. There's just no way around that. Kindness is the highest form of consciousness. It means that you have full awareness of the situation and that you choose to do the right thing. That is, by definition, kindness. You know what's kindness? I have a women's group. Sometimes they keep talking. Or they'll tell me they fucked over 50 guys. You want to hear what kindness is? You're not here. You're not present. I'm going to need you to wake the fuck up. Lean in really quickly. Where are you? And then they'll start crying. Because people don't do that. Not unless they're disassociating. And let me tell you something about shame. Shame pulls you out of your body. You are now a third-person spectator. Not only are you a third-person spectator, you're playing a video game that you suck at. Because everybody's at a higher level. So there's this danger of hiding what you are, right? Because what? You fear rejection. I would much rather you guys play the game of confronting fear than confronting shame. Can I give you guys a definition of what's better? Confronting fear in relationship to confronting shame is like fighting a chinchilla versus a dragon. To give you an idea of how much despair you'll experience when confronting shame. You know, even Philip had that in relationship to just talking to his girlfriend who was not in the mood. Turns out that was never the case. But you feel like this. You're literally like confronting a monster, kind of. So there's two kinds of shame we're talking about here. There's what you are fundamentally as a human being, and then there's what you experience to be shameful. You have to be able to divide the two. So first step, first level, which we kind of went into the other week, which was the things that you feel shame for, that you consciously know you shouldn't be ashamed for, right? And then there's what you are as a human being. Then you'll feel shame for that. So have you guys ever said this? I was unconscious at the time. I wanna just shoot you back into your body. No, you weren't. You just couldn't handle what you are and the things that you do to others. So instead, you said, I'm unconscious because that's socially acceptable. Remember how I said that about the girl? You know, like, oh, I was unconscious at the time. No. I didn't want to accept that I hid behind my friend's actions, called him a monster, as I walked away scot-free. I couldn't accept that at the time. What was the one thing I was the most afraid of? Intimacy. What do you think would happen to women when they saw me? They would run. Because they would see a monster that was never accepted. They would see a part of what you are capable of that I had no relationship with. So I'm not here to romanticize darkness. I'm not that guy. Because that's what your ego does. Your ego will be like, wow, I'm this prince of darkness, as you're just as much of an asshole. You're just as unconscious. No, the whole point is to understand you have monstrous capacity. Being a monster is the best compliment you can ever get. I like what Robbie said. That'd be pretty cool. I kind of need that in my life, right? Now ask yourself a question. What do I reject about it? So I want to just go ahead and share the story. I got one of my head coaches who I trained personally, which is just such a blessing. I want to eventually, when you guys finish this, I want you to do what I've given you to other people. Because there is nothing that would make me a happier man and also would make the world a better place. So one of my clients that now has become a coach in one of our women's groups, I met her in New York. And we were talking a lot about shame and guilt in relationship to capacity. Now, I'm at this wedding, and this is the whole important thing about feeling your emotions, Kevin. I don't just talk about feeling your emotions just because it's like a part of your humanity, of course. You're connected to something when you do, and there's a level of faith when you feel. Remember that. When you feel, there's a level of faith. Because, by the way, it's so easy to just completely disassociate. What's up, Michael? It's so easy to disassociate from feelings and disregard them and call them feelings. But if you don't have faith, your feelings are subjectively the most objective thing about your life. They are guiding you. You guys ever walk into a room and you're like, oh, fuck this place. Outside of your projections, right? But then it could also be a projection, which means that your insecurities are now coming up to the surface in the name of your emotions. So there's a certain point where, guys, I want you to be a pioneer with your emotions, right? Kind of feel it out. For somebody who used to struggle socially, tremendously, I used to struggle socially because it was always competitive. It was always tactical. It was always placement. It was chess. It was, if I'm at the wedding and the girls are on one side and the guys are on the other, make sure you glance only every other 10 seconds so you don't look desperate. That's how much my brain was working. So I spoke about this too. I said, if you lose your mind, where do you find yourself? In your body. And then you're free. So there's something very interesting about that, the captivities of your ego. Your ego gets you to think a lot because it's always focusing on protection. Your brain works just fine on its own if you're not protecting yourself every 5 minutes. Turns out. Have you guys ever felt that? You're dancing, you're having a good time. You got your friends around you, you made some money. There's a girl that's hitting you up. You're being, right? Now, often what we do is we go, well, I need all of those things to feel that way. No. You are just now understanding that you have met those, those core beliefs about what you're worth so you can be who you are without having to compete, without having to be tactical, whatever it is. And so I go to my childhood wedding, right? I'm going to my childhood's home wedding. I'm in New York. It's not my hometown. One of the girls that I felt shame for was the fucking concierge of the hotel. What are the coincidences? I told this to some people here, new people faces, now to give you some context. As I'm at the wedding, I told myself, I'm going to just stick with the emotion, whatever I'm feeling. And there was a few things I was feeling. I was feeling like sadness, but not despair. And I was also feeling a certain kind of humility in relationship to it. I used to live with this projection about my childhood friends, which was they couldn't stand who I am. Kind of romantic, right? No. Let me help you understand this a little bit more once I finish the story. I'm at the wedding. I'm with all of my friends. I'm sitting down, and I'm just feeling. People will come up to you if you are okay being with yourself. That's a very difficult thing. Most people cannot be with themselves, all right? Well, one of the concepts here that we practice a lot of, which is if you feel lonely, you're not there for you. Feeling alone is very different. Nobody's there for you in a world where you're lonely. Nobody's got your back. You're experiencing something on an existential level because you're living a lie. Fundamentally, we're all lonely, and that's what brings us together. It's the magnetism that with this deep desire for connection that we have. So there's quite literally no reason to feel any shame for that. But it's the thing we feel the most shame for, right? It's also another thing to consider. I'm just there, I'm sitting down, and I noticed I wasn't doing the broken neck thing, swivel neck, DNA matching, whatever you guys want to call it. And as I was sitting down, I just said, you know what, I'm just going to keep feeling this, whatever it is I'm going to do. And of course, oh, it's time to dance. What do most people do? Go dance. It's one of your best friend's wedding. You have to be dancing. You have to be this. You have to be that. What was another thing that kept me out of my body in New York? You're in New York. Go vacation. Whoa. All of those beliefs were exactly what was pulling me out of what I needed to be doing, wherever I was. The sense of presence, an overwhelming feeling of presence. So as the wedding goes on, I find out that I'm actually not that into it. I'm having more fun just enjoying a walk on the harbor, talking to the people that are there. And if people come up to me, they come up to me. It's a great time. I end up walking out to the harbor, and there's one of my childhood friends. He's somebody that has a really beautiful heart. You know, my whole life I always projected that he ran from what we are and what was resentful. No, the guy was always there for his friends. Always there for his friends. I made things about me. And the romantic reality that I made was that all of my childhood friends could not stand who I am. There's still shame in this projection, can't you see? It was just put onto others. And so that's a very important distinction, is that you guys, if you aren't aware of your ego, you will project the thing that you're ashamed of onto others and romanticize it. So you're creating this golden confinement, but it's still a confinement. Your subconscious, your soul is rattling. You can't stand the reality you're in. You can't stand it. So I had this conversation with him, and in the middle of it, you guys kind of need to be willing to be pioneers. I said, hey, do you feel that? And he looked at me, and his eyes got water, and he's like, yeah, I do. And I was like, there's this sense of adventure that I have when talking to you. Do you feel that? And he goes, absolutely, man. I was like, well, what are your thoughts on the wedding? He's like, it's a bubble. It's one of my best friend's party. That's all it is. We're not watching a wedding. This is just a fancy word for people to spend money and get some tax deductions or some write-offs on the name of a party. I never saw that part of him. He never held anything against me. I just couldn't believe that I could live in a world where people accept me for who I am. So I started this journey about 3 years ago. One of the things that got me out of this journey was realizing the inauthenticity of my behaviors and the niceness of my approaches. Okay, so that's really what we're going to talk about here, right? What makes a nice guy so unbearable is everything that they are is a manifestation of the shame that they bear. And about the people that I guess you could say wear it more on their skin, the ones that still haven't got over it, which is what I realized, that I've been growing doing this too, kind of glorify it or romanticize it. But to the ones that really set themselves free from shame, realize it, not romanticize it. Realizing something isn't something you just make love to. It's something you bring into reality with responsibility behind. And as the wedding goes on, I had that conversation with my friend near the harbor, and it was a really genuine heart-to-heart. I wasn't expecting that. I had no expectations of it. What was my projection of him? Everything that I am, he wants to keep distance from because it intimidates him. Nothing intimidates this guy. He's one of the strongest people I ever met. You know, he was my childhood friend. And of course, you know, what we like to do is talk about how insignificant your childhood home was, how ridiculous and stupid your parents are, how much of a spoof your childhood is. You guys are roasting yourself. What is that a product of? Shame. There isn't even any appreciation. When I went to the wedding, I removed all the projections because now I was feeling my emotions. Do you guys see the beauty of feeling your emotions? It removes you from projections. When I got to New York, a girl picked me up. I didn't have a connection with her. What do I usually feel? What do you guys usually feel when you have no connection to somebody you're attracted to? Well, sadness. Why? You won't feel connected to them because it sucks, I thought we'd have a connection, not there. Totally normal thing to feel. But instead of me just feeling it and showing that, I started slicing her into pieces to try to get her to come up to the surface. I wasn't accepting what she is, not as emotionally available as I am. Not a problem. But instead, I'm trying to make them something opposed to show up to who they are. All of these things are products of manipulation. They're kind of monstrous by nature. In New York, if you know who you are, if you kind of have an idea of what you're trying to do there, it could really show you who you are. So I'm grateful for that state. But if you don't, well, it'll slap a sticker on you and then you'll be that for the rest of your life because it moves fast. Cities move fast. After I had that conversation with my friend, he's like, I'm going to go back for the second dance, see what's going on. I look at my phone, my head coach blows up my phone. She's like, I figured it out. There's still something that you're running from in relationship to that girl. And I was like, I don't get it. What do you mean? I thought we confronted it all on yesterday's call. And she goes, no, Naftali, I need you to dig deeper. If you are a good man, what are the implications of you being a kind man? And I said, well, I have to be narcissistic, psychotic, dark. She's like, no, deeper. And I'm like, I don't know, man, you're making me think here. She's like, go deeper. And then she goes, Naftali, you're a monster. I need to describe this to you. Sometimes you kind of feel like you're a little bit ahead and a little bit behind. No, it was like sewn to me. And I was like, I couldn't even speak. And then I didn't say these words with contempt and fear, which I usually would have, which is why you need to be willing to seek truth. If you don't make a commitment to this, you will run. You will run. I've been working on this for the last 3 years of my life. Human nature. What are we? No, what are we? Great fucking question to ask. Because you go to a bunch of the priests and ministers out there, all you get is that we're these angels, this light, this being. You go to the fucking cultists, satanic worshipers, we're embodiments of darkness, right? That's all we are. It's all that's ever existed. But you start to really question what you are and you really do the research. You're not just the sum total of both. You exist outside of it. Now there's a whole new reality. Now you can actually understand what the law of attraction means. You can actually start connecting to your name, your upbringing, the people around you, the city that you're in, the job that you do, the people that you talk to. Because you're no longer demonizing the metrics of the game. You're actually existing, understanding it is one, but you've created so many negative associations to certain territory that your journey needs to go on. So she goes, you're a monster, Naftali. And I just, tears came to my eyes. And it was tears of joy, like seeing a friend that I needed so dearly. It's a part of me that I've been rejecting so much. And in relationship to the girl, what did I tell you guys even in the lecture, which I don't stand by because things have changed. I've been given more clarity on the situation. I said I was unconscious. No, I was conscious. I just could not accept what I was. And she told me, Naftali, what did you tell your friend to tell that girl? What did your friend say to that girl as you watched him just butcher her? And to give you guys some context, it was this girl I found really beautiful and things were going really well, but I never was vulnerable because I felt so much shame. All I needed to say is, hey, I'd like to pin you against the wall and eat your pussy and see how you look when I do that. But instead, what I kept doing was inviting her to house parties and yacht parties so I could seem like the shit. So that shame persisted until eventually what I did was, I said, hey, we're going to go to this one club. Let's reach out to her. She has a bunch of hot friends. And so my friend grabs the phone. Or actually, I tell him, you go ahead and take it from here. Use one of your tricks, right? They're called shame tactics, for anybody who knows them. What's a shame tactic? I'll try it on you guys. I'll text Jordan. Jordan, so fucking pathetic. What a shame, period. You're going to call me going, Naftali, what's wrong? Right? Because I'm going to trigger your shame. I'm going to get you to do things. It's the most manipulative, fucked up thing on the planet, and only people who have shame do it. So you don't really fix the system. Which is why I've never seen a pickup artist happy. Never. Because they're still shame-ridden. What they are, they see as monstrous, but they have no connection with it. They don't accept it. Because so first, number one today, Understand you're a monster. If you don't and you still think you're romanticizing it, you haven't understood it yet. After you do, accept it. Once you accept it, come back to it daily, 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 daily. It's like a relationship, you know? We abandon our inner child. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. What do you mean by coming back to it? Daily?
Yeah, I'm going to get into it. I think that the story will really tie things together. And so just to catch up Michael and Alan here. I made this about me being unconscious and now I'm a different man. I tried going right to forgiveness. Here's the thing about life. I promise you this. Remember, Kevin, you looked at your life and you realized how much you need. Honestly, there's a lot of guilt on top of the shame. But you can't get to guilt unless you get to shame first, right? If you're in the gulag, that's shame. If you're leaving it, that's guilt. But you still have 2,000 miles of fucking blizzard wind. And then there's, where the snow stops. A little bit of fear, anticipation. Well, then there's frustration once you start seeing people, because now you feel the betrayal, right? So here you got shame at the bottom. You go to guilt. Then after that, you got fear. Then after that, you got anger. When you guys hit anger, you're at a good spot. Because from here, you can start letting go of a lot of the pain. And then you could set yourself free. Because most people never leave the gulag. They've just they stared at a wall and they're watching the fire crackle behind them as it's creating a story about their life, right? And some people never leave even when they're set, quote, free. They have a life now because they never internalize the things that they saw there. We all have our gulags. We all have our concentration camps. We have to see human nature in order to accept it, in order to love it. Or else the love you have isn't real. It's one-dimensional. You only love what you know, and you know very little. So what do you reward your subconscious? To know little. To avoid conflict. Sound familiar, Kevin? To avoid the tough conversations that bring out the demon, or the monster, or the aspects of you that you reject. Oh, they come up to the surface. Humans aren't pretty. No. But the way God made us is perfect. Think about that. We just don't understand how to see it. It wraps around you. So she tells me this, and she goes, Naftali, and I do this with you guys. I'm sure you remember me doing this, kind of making it very clear, your monstrous existence that you would like to avoid, In Jordan's case, it's the nice guy masked persona as he sleeps with married women. Well, that'll wake you up. That'll make you go, oh shit, I'm monstrous. Yeah, you'll go for the weak, you fucking predator. But you should smile when I say it, right? Here's the thing though, guys, it's a tough thing to say this, but it will set you free. And she goes, Naftali, and when you know what my friend told the girl? He said, hey, if you're gonna be a whore, you should start charging, you'd make a lot of money. And that was after a few little right hooks. This was the left hook that took her down. And I was at this restaurant with my coach, and I was making this whole pity party that I'd never say that to somebody. But when I was at the harbor at the wedding a day later, she goes, you wanted to say that. You were just too much of a coward too. So because of that shame, you hid behind the monster you projected your friend to be when you were the real monster. And by the way, I'm at the harbor, my smile goes ear to ear, and I go, I'm a monster, and I wanted to tell that girl she was a silly whore. Now, I can forgive myself. Here's the thing about psychotic killers. If you guys have ever seen the interviews, what's the one thing they all lack? Shame. Why do they stay psychotic killers with no redemption? They don't feel shame. Opposed to modern belief is you should never feel shame. No, there's some things that you shouldn't feel shame for, but you should feel shame. And here's the point. Your emotions are there to guide you to these beliefs. Anything in relationship to beliefs, you will feel shame for. Remember this. When you guys are feeling shame, there's something in relationship to beliefs about you. But what do most people do when they feel shame? They're like, oh, quickly, turn on Disney Plus, right? Or somebody tell me that I'm beautiful. All your insecurities are running the show. Your shadow is in control here. What if what you are is a monster and you could accept that? Shame would never be a struggle. You would start integrating that monster towards the highest ideal, and that would define you, not the capacity that you have. We all have a desire for greatness. It's the most pure desire every human being has. But yet you suppress it because you believe what you are is a monster with a negative association, opposed to a neutral one. What makes you a good person is not so much the capacity that you come with, more than it is an understanding of what you integrate that capacity towards. Most people don't want to expand their consciousness, so they will continue playing the silly game they know. And that's all they're ever going to have. Guys, this set me free. But now we're going to get to the other part. Acceptance. Okay, you guys are all monsters. Fair enough. I'd hope so. What happens if you don't accept that? Well, you'll get your friend to project onto that he's a monster, as he says to every girl that you want to say that to, you're a filthy fucking slut, as you go about your day going, you know what I used to do around him? That guy's an animal. But me, I'm there to help him understand that. Now I have something to forgive myself for, right? Because if I actually stood by it and sent the message, I'd be left with guilt, not shame. No, I know what I am. What I am is a monster. And by the way, that concierge, when she looked at me the other day in New York, I saw the eyes. She saw something. She saw a monster. That's what made me feel shame. If the most beautiful girl that I'd want in my bedroom, looking me in the eyes, I'd want her to see the monster and make love to it too. Because that's only when love is real. You want to know what happened? At the wedding, and it just kept playing out in my head, I'm a monster, I'm a monster. I couldn't sleep till 3 a.m. in the morning, not because I was like, but because I could see my life and what I'm going to do and how much good I'm going to do with it. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. I knew that I was born for greatness and I could feel it. And I didn't need to be like, oh, Naftali, what are you feeling? Where's your emotions? And pull out the vibrator. No, I didn't need to do that. I had the ability to receive all of the emotions by breaking a belief about myself. Humanity is monstrous. We just like to dignify it like it's sweet, kind, and cuddly. No, it's monstrous. It's neutral. What you do with it is what makes it count.